Four, three, two, one. We are live. Good evening. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret: How to Fight CPS and Win. And I'm joined this evening by two co-hosts and one very special guest. My first co-host is Miss G, Miss Georgette Truen. Miss Truen, how are you this evening?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good, good. And of course, our other guest host, Miss Cassandra Woodard. Miss Cassandra, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good, good. And our very special guest this evening is Mr. Cesar Marquez. Good afternoon, Mr. Marquez.
Good afternoon.
Actually, I'm saying good afternoon. It's really evening. It's 7 o'clock in the evening.
Right. Yeah.
So,
You guys on the West Coast?
yes, we're in California. Where are you located?
I'm over here in Houston.
Okay, so we had a couple hours ahead of us.
That's correct. Yeah, about
Okay.
3 hours.
Are you from Houston originally?
No, I'm from Laredo, Texas originally. I've been here in Houston for about 20 years though.
Okay, alrighty. So you're on this show, so I will assume safely, I think, that you have some connection to CPS. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm currently involved in a custody case at the 309th District Court, and CPS very corruptly had entered some statements that I believe were actually written by my ex because the handwriting matches, and just very odd number of things that happened during that whole process. I don't know if you want me to go ahead and dive right into it, or if you had some questions you wanted to ask first.
Well, let me ask you a few preliminary questions, then I'd like you to dive right into it. First of all, I want to remind you that we don't mention anybody's name on here. We, no proper names. We can he, she, it, whatever. And I want to know, what stage of the case are you currently at, and when your next court date is, because I might be able to make some suggestions. If your case was, although you're in Texas, they might be similar. And if you were in California, I could tell you what we would do if your case was here in California. And you could perhaps talk to your attorney, your either private or court appointed attorney, about those things. Okay. So, when was your last hearing?
Today, actually.
Oh, okay. Do you know what type of hearing you had?
It was supposed to be the final trial. I went in and I asked to reset, and they went ahead and reset it for January the 9th.
Okay, when you say the final trial in California, that means the trial to perhaps terminate your parental rights. So
That's
your
correct.
children. Okay, so they're trying to terminate your parental rights so that your children are adopted by someone else.
Pretty much. I mean, for the past 8 or 9 months, I've been limited to a 30-minute Zoom call with my daughter once a Saturday, and every other Saturday a 1-hour supervised visit at the domestic relations office.
Okay, now in California, if you're in this situation and you're heading towards what in California they call it a 366.26 hearing, but it's basically a hearing to terminate your parental rights so that the child can be freed for adoption by generally foster parents, or that relative who wanted to take the kids away from you. There are several things you can do between now and your next court hearing, the actual trial date. And in California, those things include, but not limited to: number one, you would want to file what we call a 388 petition. I don't know what it's called in California, although Cassandra has given us a website that translates all of the different statutes from one state to the other. So if you go on that website, you can look at 388 for California, and then you can look on, what they call it in other states, in your state, perhaps Texas. And maybe while we're talking, Cassandra will type that into the comments so that everybody will have access to that. The other thing you might want to do is talk to your attorney about a bonding study, because in California, the standard is they will terminate your rights unless it's proven that termination of your rights would be detrimental to the child, not detrimental to you, but detrimental to the child. The other thing that you might want to consider is making a motion to have the child moved to a friendly relative or to, a family friend. Now, these people can live anywhere in the world. They don't have to live in Houston. They don't have to live in Texas. They can live anywhere in the United States or possibly the world. And you I'm probably wondering, I ask everybody this, why isn't your child with a relative now? I mean, you don't have to talk about that right now. We'll get into that, but those are types of questions that you should be thinking about as you approach the 2-6 or the termination hearing. I tell a lot of people this, and people don't believe me. The planning for a 2-6 hearing starts many months ago. All right. And at the very latest, since they set the hearing date today, it starts today. There's a lot of things that you and your attorney should be working on between now and that 2-6 hearing to derail the termination of your parental rights, because that's the ultimate, death penalty in a juvenile dependency or CPS case, right? So why don't you tell us your story? Start from the beginning. Let's do it in chronological order. And don't forget, no names, please.
No names. Okay, well, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I found out that the reason that all of this has been going on is because my ex got back together with her ex from 10 years ago, which they have a child together. And he turns out to be an FBI agent now. So, and I know this because the same cars that were following me around, the same cars that are outside of my apartment, I went over to the field office, the FBI field office over here, the same cars going in. I went inside one time and I talked to them, and they completely blew me off and just disregarded me. I went a second time. Nobody even came out. The guards wouldn't even come out. Nobody would come out to talk to me. And I've had them punch out my tires 14 times in the last 2 years. They threw me in jail because I called 911, and because that agent was harassing me and sending me death threats. So I called 911 and told them, hey, this guy is harassing me. They came up to my door. They were trying to open my door. They were trying to get in my apartment. And the cops ended up arresting me. They said, oh, you got a warrant for your arrest. I was like, from where? They said, it's coming out of Laredo. I said, I haven't lived in Laredo in the past 20 years. No record of that case. Can't find it anywhere. After I got out of jail, I called the attorney. Her attorney wouldn't give me any information, doesn't talk to me, doesn't tell me anything. So all the stuff that's going on is because of this agent. And I can't fight it. I don't have an attorney because every time I've tried to call legal aid, every time I try to call anyways, my calls get blocked. I can't get through. I can't get any recommendations from anybody. The last choice that I have now is that I've called a civil rights activist here in town that's pretty well known, and I spoke to him last week, and he said he was going to help me out. And now I can't find the guy anywhere. So this basically started about 8 months ago, and March 24th was the last time I saw my daughter. Well, that I got to spend time with her. I had called CPS because I had seen some stuff on my daughter's iPad about this guy, this agent that was FaceTiming with his daughter naked and doing all this stuff, and really on sexual abusing the children and emotionally abusing them. The guy is clinically a malignant narcissist, and he's done a lot of emotional abuse on my ex and on the children. So I had called CPS on him, but CPS shows up. It's this lady, doesn't show me a badge, doesn't show me an ID, talks to me for 15 minutes. And the whole time I'm telling her about this guy, And she's telling me, I got to hurry up. I got to get to another family. And I'm like, well, you're dealing with me right now. We're talking about my family. Uh, prior to her arrival, me and my ex had an altercation, and she stole my keys, my apartment key and my mailbox key. So she says, okay, I'm going to go talk to your ex. They go inside her house. We were outside of her house, and I'm there waiting and waiting and waiting. And like 20 minutes go by, and I'm like, I'm just going to go home. So I'm knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell. They can both hear me. They're right there. They don't come outside. I say, hey, you got my keys. I want to leave. Can I have my keys back? Nothing. No response. About another 20 minutes later, Houston police show up, and they said I'm harassing her. And they put me in handcuffs and put me in the back of the car. That agent then shows up to the house, goes inside, and then they all come out, three together with the CPS worker. And she has a paper that says, you need to sign this. You need a mental health evaluation or you're going to go to jail. So I didn't sign the paper, and I was talking to the officer. I said, hey, man, I haven't done anything wrong here, man. Like, you got to let me go. Like, why do I have to sign that? Why do I have to do any of this? Like, I'm the one who called CPS on him. So they let me go. And then that statement gets entered into court. And I can't see my daughter from that point on. I didn't see her for 3 weeks after that. I couldn't have any phone calls with her or talk to her on the phone or see her at all. So I'm calling this lady from CPS every day, and I'm saying, hey, what's going on? She doesn't answer my phone, doesn't return my phone calls, nothing for 3 weeks. And then finally she says, Mr. Marquez, you need to go take your mental health evaluation. And it's got to be at this one place specifically. And I said, why does it have to be there? And I said, I'm a veteran. If I'm going to go anywhere, I'm going to go to the VA. So anyways, I said, can I see your badge and your ID? Never see your badge or ID. Nothing. So like about another week goes by, and I said, I got her on the phone, and I said, where are you located? She said, I'm at my office over here. And I said, okay, I'll be right there. I'm going to go down there. She said, no, you can't come here. I was like, why? It's a CPS office, isn't it? I'm just trying to talk to find out what's going on. So I go over there anyways, and they can't find her anywhere. Can't find this lady anywhere. All of a sudden, she comes in through the front doors instead of coming down the elevator. Supposedly, the office is on the second or third floor. And then she takes me to a little room. She says, I'm going to take down your statement. I said, I already gave you my statement. I said, you haven't done anything to look into this guy? No. Don't worry about it. Your daughter's fine. That's what she said. And I said, can you show me your badge and ID? No, I don't have to show you anything. At that point, she got ready and said, you know what? We're done here. And she got up and left. And that was the last time that I ever saw her again. Move forward. I'm calling and calling every day. I'm trying to get in touch with their director and the program director for CPS. Nobody returns my calls. Finally, on May the 4th or the 9th, I believe, I get a phone call saying from three of them, the program director, her supervisor, and the caseworker saying, okay, you're cleared of any wrongdoing. We're going to go ahead and close out the case on you. And I said, hey, so do I still have to take a mental health evaluation? And they said, no, we're not requiring you to do so. About another week goes by, and I get a letter in the mail from CPS saying suspicion to believe neglect. And I'm calling them, hey, what is this about? You just told me that I was cleared of any wrong. Why is it saying? And at the same time, that motion was entered with that document entered in court. And so I haven't spoken. I've been calling them for the past 4 or 5 months, to the program director, to the supervisor. I filed a complaint with the Office of Consumer Relations. I filed a complaint with the Ombudsman. Nothing. No response. And it's because this guy, this FBI guy, has my phone hacked, and all my emails get redirected, all my mail gets redirected, all my phone calls get redirected. I never get through to anybody. So I had to try to be a lawyer myself. And so this guy had already defended me in a prior case. So I entered a motion to disqualify. And the last time
To
that I
dis
spoke to
Wait a
my
minute.
ex,
Hold on a second. To disqualify who?
her attorney, my ex's attorney, my ex has custody of our child right now.
Okay, but hold on a second. Let's back up for a minute. You made a motion to disqualify her attorney on what grounds?
He defended me in a prior case before. He
In the
defended
CPA?
me when she was going to court against her ex-husband. And we went to trial, and I prepared documents for him. He gave me legal advice. I compiled evidence for him. We worked on the case together.
But it was a different case.
It was a different case. Yeah.
Yeah. So your motion probably was denied then, right?
Well, it was denied, but I entered another motion to reconsider, and I have it scheduled. And I found the document that he lied about in court, because we went to court for it and it was denied. And I said, this is the text, the trial layout that this man defended me in. And it was a piece of paper. And the judge had said, well, I can't. He said, well, what's the validity of it? How can you prove the validity of it? So I didn't have it at the time, but then I was looking through my emails and I found he sent me that email with his name on it and everything. So I then entered a new motion to reconsider, and I had all that evidence. And then I talked to my ex when I was talking to my daughter on a Zoom call, and she told me in Spanish, she was telling me, this is the last time I'm going to help you. You take that motion off, or you're going to go we're going to throw you in jail again. I said, what? For what? I said, I'm just trying to defend myself. She goes, get that motion, take away that motion that you've entered, or you're going to get thrown in jail again. And
Wait, who told you this?
My ex, her brother is the lawyer. And so I then asked, I was like, that's when I tried to call the civil rights leader, because I can't do anything, These guys they broke into my apartment. The files that I had on my computer, on my laptop, they stole the hard drive out of my laptop. They erased my cameras. They broke into my mailbox. They stole a debit card, maxed it out. And I've already filed police reports on all of this. No investigator has been signed within the last 5 months to anything, not to my break-in, not to the fraud, not to the mailbox being broken into, nothing. And I've called and called and called, and we still haven't assigned an investigator to it. We still haven't decided. Well, it's because this guy's got connections with the police. And I know this because one time prior to the case, I went to go pick up my daughter. She was at his house, and I had called the police constables because I didn't want to deal with him. And they came and they went to the house and they looked around and said, oh, nobody's here. And I had given him the card of that CPS lady, because her business card, first of all, was in black and white. It wasn't embossed. It wasn't in color. It was, it looked like it was from a copier machine. The lines weren't, sharp or anything. It was overlapped. And I gave him the card. I said, can you look into this? He checked it out and he said, oh, you know what? You just probably you need to go get a lawyer and get this. And I said, okay. So I left. 3 minutes later, I realized, hey, he still has that business card. I'm going to go get it back. I go back to the guy's house, and the officer is talking to the guy, and the kids are there. So, I mean, the cop was lying that he was there at the residence. I saw them. I parked a little way, and I'm like, I couldn't believe it, So he does have the connections here with the local police that are covering up for him, because like I said, I filed a sex crimes on him I have his daughter on videotape admitting that he was FaceTiming with her naked, grabbing my daughter, doing all this stuff, taking pictures of her when she got out of the bathtub. And no investigator has been signed to that. I filed on the burglary of my residence. No investigator has been signed to the mailbox. No investigator. Nothing. I filed like 5 incident reports, and none of them have been investigated. So I had spent the night in jail. I spent 4 nights in jail when I was there. And during that time, several attempts were made on my life. I actually had to go and talk to one of the guards and tell him, hey, man, these guys are trying to kill me here. And they're all talking about it. They're all talking about it right there in the holding cell. And the guards are even standing up and saying, hey, there's not going to be any murders here tonight, or we're going to, we're going to put you more, we're going to charge you with it and everything like that. And I'm like getting desperate. I'm like, these guys are going to kill me. And so I went in and went to go talk to medical, and they ended up putting me in solitary in the crazy unit. And I was like, well, at least, I'm not going to get killed here. But that's my fear. When she told me, if you don't take that motion to disqualify my brother, then we're going to put you back in jail. And so I look, and sure enough, there's another case against me for harassment. And what harassment? When I'm just sending her messages saying, hey, can I talk to my kid, or how's my kid doing? And I'm sending emails to the court saying, hey, this is what's really going on here. And they're labeling that as harassment. And now they're trying to say that I need to, I had to take a drug test, a 10 panel hair follicle, which I did, and I passed it. And I haven't taken the mental health examination because I don't have money for it. It's $3,000 or $4,000. And the place they wanted me to take it at, I found out why, because the lady that works there was related to that CPS, that lady that came out. And she's not even a real CPS agent, because I called, she doesn't even work there. And when I found her online, she had a different name. And now nobody wants to tell me anything about her. And the program director doesn't answer my calls. Nobody answers my calls. So what I'm really fighting against is some very well-connected people here that, I can't do anything about it. And I'm at the point where I'm not going to live in fear. I'm not going to live my life this way. So if they're going to come and kill me or do something like that, then come and do it, because this is my daughter we're talking about, and this is my life. So, I mean, even just doing this interview, the other day when I tried to talk to the judge, I came outside and 2 of my tires were flat. They stole the brake pads off of my car. The guy had sabotaged 2 of my cars before also. And so it's just, sometimes I can't even use my debit cards because they're blocked or something like that. And I'm not hallucinating this. I'm not making this up. I have actual proof. The other day I was filming these guys, these agents out here, and one of them was acting like a jackass, and he was just running over stuff over the curb, and I'm telling him off. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing, man? What were you trying to show me, like, how much of a man you are by just revving your engine and going back and forth and jumping over the curb? I mean, just intimidation tactics like that, scare tactics like that, all day long, every day for the past 8 months. That's what I've been dealing with. Sometimes I don't want to leave the house.
If I may interrupt you for a second, other people might hear you and say you're crazy. And I know exactly what you're talking about. They do follow you. They send random people following you. They send random people sitting in front of your home in their car, pretending they're on the phone.
I posted it online.
Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy. And they actually come out and let you know that they are there for you. They're there to catch you do anything with camera, like video, like, audio and video and you name it. And
that's exactly
and then
right.
when you tell people that, they want you to look like you're crazy. They want you to look like you're crazy. You're making up the whole story, etc., etc. So therefore,
that's exactly what they were doing in the beginning.
Right.
Is they followed me around,
Right.
and they were videotaping me everywhere I'd go, gas station, whatever. They were videotaping me, and I would come up to them and say, "Why are you videotaping me? Like, I don't know you." and they would be videotaping and say, "You're crazy, man. You need help." And they would all say the same word: "You're delusional. You're delusional." That message has been entered in court so many times, and I've heard it from so many people filming me and from my ex. And that term itself was originally coined by this agent from like 10 years ago, from sending text messages to my ex and back and forth. And I knew it. I was like, I've heard that word before. I see it. And it's just, I mean, that's the kind of tactics that they're using to try to scare me. And sure enough, yeah, to try to make me look like like I have a mental health issue or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And now the domestic relations office got involved. The lady came to my house and checked everything out, and I gave her the information, and I presented her with evidence that I had and everything, and she completely flat out lied on her report. I mean, she made me look like I was like I had no income, like I was just a loser, like I didn't have anything, like I wasn't concerned about my daughter's well-being or anything like that. I mean, just completely flat out lied, and made it seem like her mom was, this innocent victim in all this, and she was just, completely perfect. And I mean, it was ridiculous, the report. And I've been sending them emails like, "Why did you lie about this? Why did you lie about this? I told you about this. I told you about that." And she came to supervise me one time, and I told her, I said, "Look, my daughter's being parentally alienated." I said, when I try to ask her if this guy is around the house or what's going on, she completely like says, "I don't want to talk about it." She gets angry, she gets distraught. And I said, "Look, that's what's going to happen." And I asked my daughter, and I asked her only one time. I said, "Hey, is this getting ready? I don't want to talk about it." I said, "Okay, that's fine." And I looked at the worker and I said, "See," but instead she put that on the report saying, "Oh, and he kept like bragging, asking his daughter this, and his daughter was very distraught and angry that he was, bothering her." And I was like, "Oh my God, like what the hell?" Like you're just completely lying on this custody evaluation report. I mean, and then she put at the very end, "He really needs to have a mental health evaluation because the child should stay with the mother and everything." And I'm like, oh my God, like this is just ridiculous. So, I mean,
You
that's
know,
what I'm dealing with.
it I can understand exactly what you're saying. And even though they are one sided, and I said that on my show so many times, they favor the abuser. Always. Always. The abuser is the perpetrator. I mean,
Oh,
sorry, the innocent they see as the perpetrator, and the abuser they see as the innocent one. And the system is so twisted. And then people like your friends, your family, whatever, if they don't know you very good, right? They also get brainwashed by the social workers. The social workers go after your family first to separate you from your family. That's number one. Number two, they're going to make your friends think you're crazy. Number
right.
three, you're going to feel so alone that no one is listening to you. And then you're going to feel like, I mean, some people question themselves. There's two mothers that just committed suicide, two mothers before Thanksgiving in two different states. Two different states, because the social worker alienated them from their mom, from their dad, from their siblings, and they felt alone. They felt alone. So that's their tactics. I call it the demonic tactics, right? They have their
Oh, they
own
definitely
strategy.
are.
Their strategy is to eliminate. When you divide, you conquer. You divide, you conquer, right? Even if you're on the street, there's a lot of people around you. The criminal is not going to get in between all these people, right? He or she is going to have to wait until you're in the clear, so the attack can be much easier, right? That's exactly how they do it in the system. And I had a mother that called me today, as God is my witness, every word I tell you guys is God honest truth. She called me today. She said, Georgette, my friend told me to call you. She was a referral from a client, an old client. She used to judge her friend, our old client, for having her kids stolen from her. She used to judge her. She said, oh, you must be bad. Otherwise, you wouldn't have your kids, with you. She said to me in tears, I was one of those women that judged other women. And she's a good mom, good mom. But now she reaps what she sowed because she now feels the pain and the injustice of the system. So anyone that hears you and not believe you, Cesar, one day they're going to experience that same pain you're facing. And that is the God honest truth.
Right.
Um,
No, everything you said
Crazy.
is exactly
Mhm.
right. The thing is, this man, like I told you, he suffers from a malignant narcissistic personality disorder, and all those tactics that you said, the triangulation, the self-blaming, or the blame shifting, rather, and the term is called flying monkeys. When they get
Yes.
other people around you
To hate you.
to hate
Yeah.
you, to believe you, tell you. Well, at the
Mhm.
beginning of this case, she called my whole family, and I
Mhm.
was getting calls from my brother, my uncle that I hadn't talked to, and telling me, "What's your problem, man? You need to go see a therapist," And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She manipulated them and got them to turn on me and all this, and it's been like that. I've been completely alone because not only does this guy not let me talk to anybody, but he taunts me. He sent me a sex tape of him and my ex, and I couldn't turn it off, and it's playing and it's playing and it's playing on my phone, and then I'm trying to go on a dating app and restart my life, and it ends up it's him, and he's talking to me and pretending to be this girl and there's a picture and everything and a name and everything, but it's him because he's starting to tell me stuff like, hey, messing with me, and I'm like, God, this guy just won't leave me alone.
Yeah, but you're
And
gonna have to. You can't fall into the enemy's hands like that, though. You're gonna have to understand. You can't feed on to the gaslighting. It's called gaslighting.
gaslight.
When you
Yeah.
gaslight someone to get them to react based on from your be this from their deceptive and their malicious ways. Then when you do react to them, then they point the finger at you and say, "Look, he's crazy. Look what he's doing. He's not safe," right? That's
Exactly.
why, I don't know if you're a Christian, but I am. Towards the end, I mean, when you really read the Bible and understand the words, it's like everything is happening. I see it clearly right now as I get older. Um, Jesus said, towards the end, the lies will be the truth, and the truth will be lies. And you're not fighting against flesh and blood. You're fighting against high powers and high places, right? So it is important for you to understand when you feed on to their malicious behavior towards you, you're actually giving them the upper hand to have control over you. You never ever react towards a narcissist, right? You always have to stay calm. Because once you show any type of emotion, what is sadness, whether it's sadness or happiness, or you roll your eyes, or you move your neck, or whatever type of emotion you show them, they're going to know that they have control over you.
Right.
Don't do it. So the more you react, because you're a man, right? You're the man, you're the head of your home. You want to protect your children. That's what men are. Men are protectors. Real men, that is, not just any man. Men are protectors normally of their home, right?
Yes.
So you're gonna show your man emotion. Not Men are not normally emotional, but you're gonna show that manly side of you because you're a man,
Right. No, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
right? So they see that as weakness because they're gonna keep pushing your buttons until you really lose your mind. You think you lost
Right.
your mind now? It's worse to come. Worse to come if you
Right.
don't. Go ahead and control yourself right now. I'm just letting you
Yeah.
know.
Well, it's never going to end. That's the thing.
Hmm.
It's never going
Well,
to end. He took away all my
actually,
clients from my phone. I had a successful business that I had run that I started myself for the past 7 years. From one day to the next, no more phone calls, nothing. I've had to get food stamps. They've tried to get me evicted. I'm driving for Lyft right now because that's all I can do. All my
wow.
clients just magically went away. Clients that I had billed for years and years, I was getting 10, 15 calls a week to do my jobs. All of a sudden, from one day to the next, nothing, gone. And it's been like that ever since this case started back in March.
Yep.
Poof,
They ruin
gone.
your reputation. They ruin your reputation. They destroy
Right.
your life. Um,
But that's the point
but
where I say, now I'm at that point where I'm like, well, let's get it on. Let's do it. I mean, because I'm not going to continue living my life like this for the rest of my life, where they're just going to have this control over me, where I'm not going to be able to progress in my life because they're blocking everything I do or trying to make me look crazy. And they're taking my life away. My daughter is my life, and they're
yep,
ripping her out of my life.
I know.
So you're saying about being a man defending his house?
Mhm.
I'm ready. I mean, I've gone out there and I've fought with them so many times, and they just run away. They just run away. But I'm not going to live in fear. But they're doing damage
It's
to
not
my
about
vehicle
living.
every day.
No, Caesar, it's not living in fear. I'm trying to tell you to control your emotions. You can't let them know that they're getting to you.
They've
You
already
can't.
done it. They've already done. I can't fight in court. I can't. I can't get a lawyer. I can't do anything. They've done it. They've taken everything from me. There's nothing I can do. All I can do is just stand my ground.
When is your next hearing?
I rescheduled the motion to disqualify. They
Mhm.
accepted that motion, and it's going to be rescheduled for the 3rd, January 3rd, and the final hearing is on January the 9th.
So you're going towards your termination.
Right.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You said the child is with your wife?
My
Oh,
ex.
your ex. Okay. The
Yeah.
child's with your ex. Now, this may be different in Texas, but in California, if the child is placed with a parent, you can't terminate the other parent's rights. That's not the rule in Texas.
Right now, to be honest, Mr. Davis, they've broken every rule in that courtroom. Every
Mhm.
rule. The judge, I had given him the phone number. We were in court. I gave him the phone number to call the program director for CPS. He calls her. We're there in the court, and she immediately says, "Am I on speaker? Can you take me off speaker?" Okay. So he's talking to her. We don't know what he's saying. He completely kept all that information. He gets off the phone, and I said, "What happened? Didn't she say that I was cleared of any wrongdoing?" And he does this. He goes, hold on, hold on.
Yep, I believe it. Yep.
He said, yes, but
Mhm.
you're going to need a lawyer. And then I said, okay, so I was cleared of any wrongdoing. But he still gave me, he said, you have 30 minutes Zoom call only with your daughter and a 1 hour visitation. He actually said you have the max allowed time supervised. But he had the other lawyer draw up the motion and he only put it for 1 hour. And I told him before he even submitted, I said, put it for the max allowed time. I was given max allowed time, still put it for an hour. I talked to the judge after that. The other day, I went into that courtroom and I went to go talk to that judge. And the minute I said FBI, he got up and walked out the room like he didn't want anything to do with it. The minute I said FBI, I mean, everybody was in there. He just got up and left. And I
So
said, where'd he go?
Caesar, let me ask you something. Have you
Yeah,
been watching any of my shows or videos where I suggest to people that they file complaints with the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C.?
I have filed every complaint with everybody.
You
The
filed you
Department of
filed
Justice.
You
I
filed with
filed
the
with the
Department.
Department of Justice. I filed with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. I
Okay,
filed 3
Caesar, hold
grievances on
on,
lawyers.
hold on. So I just want a yes or no. Sometimes Miss G and I have this conversation. You see, Miss G, I'm trying to get an answer. I'm trying to be sure. Caesar, yes or no, have you filed a complaint with the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C.? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have the response and the case number?
No response ever.
When did you file?
Months ago. I keep sending them emails all the time.
Okay. Do me a favor.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to send Miss G a copy of the complaint that you filed, and I will personally follow up on it.
Yep.
Okay.
And I will make sure he does, by the way. I will see to it.
Miss
Because
G,
look,
from my
Miss
understanding,
G, is Miss G saying, are you making sure that Caesar does or make sure that Davis does?
both.
Okay.
I will
You can rhyme
definitely
both of it.
send you the complaint. I have it all printed out and everything. But also, I don't know if that's the way it is in California, but over here, and I they're messing with me, telling me that they don't handle that. So I've gotten email back from the Department of Family and Protective Services. I've gotten email back from the Office of Consumer Relations and from the Ombudsman, but
Mm.
it didn't. They didn't do anything. Like they didn't investigate it. It just said we have a we've taken your complaint, but that was it. And I
Right.
keep sending them over and
Right.
over and over again.
Well, in California, they don't have to do anything, right? I mean, a lot of people think you filed a complaint. I just saw a letter. I don't know, Miss G, if you sent that to me today, or somebody sent me a letter, a response. Somebody filed a complaint with,
Mhm.
I think, the Department of Justice in their jurisdiction. And the Department of Justice said, we have decided that we are not going to do the investigation or take this anywhere. Now, that's their decision. Now, I bet a lot of people don't know this, but you can appeal that decision,
I have
right?
the appeal
So,
letters.
did you
Believe me,
take the
I have fought this
have you
thing every single day.
have you filed a civil rights lawsuit in the United States District Court there in Houston?
No, I have not.
Okay. You should consider doing that,
Mhm.
because the ultimate arbiter or decision maker in the federal system is the U.S. District Court, the Court of Appeals for that district, and then ultimately the United States Supreme Court. So if you have, and it sounds like you do, I'm going to take you at your word, you have legitimate complaints,
Mhm.
and I think they should be investigated to the fullest.
Mhm.
I've
One of the
contacted the
easiest ways,
ACLU. Sorry, go
one of
ahead.
the one of the easiest ways to um, get information that you can't get now is through a lawsuit.
Mhm.
Lawsuits have something called the formal discovery.
Mhm.
Here's one of our viewers says, Cloud9's mama filed a tort. She might be referring to a tort claim. That generally applies to state causes of action, like your state violations of civil rights.
Mhm.
Uh, but in California, at least, and I would guess, it's just a guess in Texas, I would, in California, you don't have to file that tort claim for federal civil rights violations. You don't have to file it. You can just go ahead and file your civil rights lawsuit.
The problem I'm having as being pro se is that I can't. I mean, the judges look at me and just laugh, and they're like, "You need a lawyer." Like, I tried to file a protective order on the guy, and the judge wouldn't even listen to it. I did that
Have you
twice.
have you thought about trying to hire a lawyer?
I have. I First of all, I don't have the money because I used to have the money, but since they did that to my job, I don't have the money. But I've contacted legal aid. I've contacted Lone Star Legal Aid, American Family Lawyers, Houston Lawyers Association. They all tell me the same thing. We don't have the resources right now. So when I spoke to this civil rights activist here in town. He said, I will contact them on your behalf. But I haven't heard back from him. This was last week. He told me to call him today on Monday. I called him 3 times. No response. I don't know. It could be that
First
they're
of all,
blocking.
Legal Aid Foundation is not going to help you. Legal Aid Foundation get funded. A house, I mean, you can't divide the state against itself, right? They get funded somehow. They get some funding because it's a nonprofit organization, right? So
Yeah, but in order to fight this, I need like at least 30, 40, 50 grand to fight this in court. I mean, I don't have that much. I mean, every lawyer I called is asking me for $8,000-9,000 retainer, and then just to get started on the case. And I mean, it's a lot of stuff also. I mean, I don't have that.
but
You know.
just be careful though. You're looking for a juvenile attorney, not a family law attorney. I have 4 people called me today hiring the wrong attorney. Mr. Davis knows one of them that paid $20,000 for each one. And he just discovered he was a family law attorney. They didn't know anything about a CPS case, but they told him they did. So you guys have to be very careful. And you guys have to be very aware of who you hire. And if you have the money to spend on an attorney, think wisely before you choose. Very wisely, right?
Yeah.
You don't have so many chances. CPS moves in pretty fast, pretty quick. So you guys think from the CPS investigation phase of your life, don't ever think that they're taking the first step before they enter your home, because they already went through 20 steps that you were not aware of. They assess in their mind how many kids you have. They know exactly what they're going to do with these kids. They know exactly where they're going to place them before you even thought of them coming to your home.
Right.
So you guys have to move faster than them. When you get an initial card left on your door from a social worker, don't ignore it. You have to get lawyered up immediately. I mean, Mr. Davis said it in his book. He said it in his shows. I mean, there's so much awareness out there. People don't do their homework. They don't. So
It's not that I didn't want a lawyer. From the very
not,
first
yeah,
day, I've been
it's not you, Cesar.
from the very
I'm referring to. I'm talking in general. But there is an attorney that Mr. Davis had on his show before. Attorney Davis, do you recall the attorney from Texas, Matthew Harris?
Matthew Harris, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I remembered his first name, but yeah, you're right. Harris
Mm-hmm.
is his last name. And Caesar, I don't know. I forget what city Matthew was in. I don't think it was
Livingston.
where,
Livingston?
but is that near like Dallas or Houston or what?
Maybe
Uh,
Houston?
All right.
Maybe?
Hey, Caesar, you could Google his name, Matthew Harris, attorney
In
in
Texas.
in Texas. All right. Um, or you can find the video on my YouTube channel.
I'll text it to him, Mr. Davis. I have the video.
Okay. Where he, was a guest,
Mm-hmm.
and from talking to him a couple times, he's on the ball. He knows what's going on
Yeah, he does.
with respect to CPS, and maybe he can help you. Now, I don't know one way or the other, what his financial requirements are, but
Mm-hmm.
don't be surprised if he's going to want to be paid.
Oh,
Today
yeah,
I got a call from a woman. I think she was in West Virginia. Who told me a really sad story, and wanted me to come to West Virginia on my dime, and represent her pro bono.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt bad saying it, but I told her, I can't go broke flying to West Virginia doing your case for free. I mean, I just can't. And if she were here in Los Angeles, maybe that'd be a little bit different, but West Virginia is not down the street and around the corner.
Hey, if you come and help me, you can have everything I own, including my car. I just want my daughter back.
I
I'm
understand.
serious.
I understand.
Everything I own.
Who's gonna pay
Terrified.
for that? Who's gonna pay for that first round trip ticket?
I'll sell my car and get you down here.
Okay, you
I'm
got to get me
serious.
back too. You can't. Not a one way.
No, I understand.
All right.
No,
You know,
I'm deadly serious. none of these possessions mean anything to me. What's important is my daughter. That's what
Right.
means everything. I would give my
How old,
right arm just to spend another day with her.
how old is she again?
She's 8 years old.
8 years old.
And I have been in her life every single day. I was that child's mother and that child's father because I did all the changes, all the nighttime feedings. I read her all the books. I played with her. I spent all the time with her, cooked for her, everything. Her mother would hardly do anything. And I'm not just saying that to be, mean or anything, but it is the God's honest truth. I was there with my child 90% of the time, and I did everything. I did everything. I stayed at home and watched her and bathed her and changed her diapers and did all the feedings, did all the bottles, everything. I was there when she said her first words. I was there when she took her first steps. I've been in her life every single day for the past 7 years until this case started. That's when it all ended. I mean, just the emotional trauma that has on a child when you've been in their life and then all of a sudden you're just ripped away. And me and my daughter, we had a great, perfect father-daughter relationship.
Hey,
She
Caesar,
always wanted,
have you ever thought about writing a book,
yeah,
starting a
actually, I
website,
make a great screenplay.
maybe perhaps writing a book, starting a website?
I've done that. I've done a few videos on YouTube. Miss G, I even wanted to become a preacher, and I did my sermon the other day. I did a first sermon. I've been trying to talk to my ex and telling her what's important is love. It's just love for people, love for your children. Like this, I do agree with you. There's an evil aspect here. There's a demonic type aspect here because these people have no empathy. Like they don't care. Like it doesn't mean anything to them to just erase somebody out of a child's life like that.
No, look, I mentioned this on my shows a couple of times, and with Mr. Davis as well. I grew up with both my mom and dad. I've seen the respect my father showed my mom, and vice versa, my mom with my father. Um, I have I am in my mid-50s, and I still think of my father and I cry. Like my father died May 12th, and every time near before May, I cry the whole month of May. And my mom died December 14th. So the whole month of December is very emotional for me. So I don't understand how when you are involved with a person, right? You don't know what you're gonna get. It's like a box of chocolate. You don't know which fucked up chocolate you're gonna pick up to eat. You just don't know, or what you're gonna spit out of your mouth, right? So
Right.
it's an experience you just, didn't know about. When you do face it and when you are involved in it, it becomes messy. But you didn't sign up for that. You didn't get into this relationship knowing that one day you're going to lose your daughter. Whether you're a woman or a man, you just don't know. However, with me, I look at life this way. You guys made the child together. You guys should be able to share the child together. Doesn't matter if you have a wife. It doesn't matter if she has a boyfriend or a husband. It doesn't matter. No one should be involved but you and her with your children or child. That's
Right.
how it should be. Parents in general fight for over the dumbest shit. Child support. Who's in charge of this? Who's in charge of that? As God is my witness, when I was in my 20s and my friend was going through her thing with her ex-husband, she was 32 at the time. I always said this: both parents should not be involved to pay child support. Both parents should be like when the children are with you, you pay for them. When the children are with the other parent, she or he will pay with them for them. That's what I believe. But I used to be called, stupid, and that's not logical and all that crap. But that would make the relationship so much better because
Right.
neither of you guys are fighting for money, because usually when a man doesn't want to pay child support, he'll fight the woman, right, to make sure that the child doesn't remain with her. But it shouldn't be like that. You should never use children as tools. However, the system helps that parent who uses the child as tools to actually, it's like they're enabling him, right? So a narcissistic system will enable most likely the narcissistic parent, whether it's the man or the woman, right?
Right.
So that's what you're dealing with. Whether you're preaching about it or whether you want to become a preacher, they don't care. They're stealing kids from preachers too. A preacher from Utah called me. They stole his kids because a atheist told the CPS person or reported him to CPS saying that him and his wife are forcing their 10-year-old to go to Sunday school. Really? Or is it because the atheist person didn't like the priest, right? Common sense in a social worker's head, but they don't operate on common sense. They don't. They're stupid. So once you open that Pandora box, they walk in, they steal your life, they steal your soul, and say goodbye, nice doing business with you. That's how CPS operates, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
The
Well,
child
especially
screaming. Yeah, it doesn't. But the child kept screaming for her parents. She's screaming for her parents. And she kept saying, they're not forcing me. They're not forcing me. I love God. I love Sunday school. Get it? And then
yeah.
where did they end up putting the child? In an atheist home who don't believe in anything. Sad, isn't
There's
it?
so much of that CPS corruption here in town. I mean, they just had a court case not too long ago where they found 4 CPS workers, fraudulently writing up reports, and putting in, all kinds of stuff that they were arrested for. I mean, it's like an ongoing thing here in Houston, and I love the city, but it's one of the most corrupt cities in the world. I mean, it really is. With the judges being corrupt, lawyers being corrupt, the police department being corrupt, and CPS being corrupt. I mean, if you have the money, you can do whatever you want here. I mean, that's basically what it boils down to. Because that's what I've been involved. And
Actually, there's people that paid a lot of money, but they didn't get their kids back. You know why? Because they hired the wrong attorney.
well,
So
yeah, but here in
really
Houston,
about who you hire to handle your case.
here in Houston, it's all about who you know. And believe me, I mean, I've seen it flat out, just corruption in my face. I mean, I try to get help completely, like, just don't either call me back. HP doesn't hire any investigators on the incident reports, or they just complete flat out lie and make stuff up, or threaten to kill me, or threaten to put me in jail, or do stupid stuff like put nails in my tires. I mean, 14. I've had
They use
14
that
flat
techniques with
tires.
everybody, by the way. Yeah, the nails thing. Yep.
And then they stole the brake pads off of my car.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just it's ridiculous.
Do whatever you can. There is a funding. Somebody told me about. There's funding agencies, but they do funding usually for civil cases. So if you have a civil case, you want to sue them, it's called momentum funding. I think I mentioned this to you guys before. Momentum funding will if you have an attorney, like for example, if you go to Attorney Davis says you have a good lawsuit, right? Then Attorney Davis does a contract for you, gives you a contract. Then that contract is sent to that momentum funding. And then momentum funding will call Attorney Davis and say, okay, how much is the case going to cost from beginning to end so we can fund that person for you to win that case for him or her. It's called momentum funding. But remember this, momentum funding doesn't fund all states. They fund California, not Arizona, and not Las Vegas for some reason. But there's other states that they do fund and other states they don't fund. So you could need to call them, Google it. It's called momentum funding. Google it if you have a civil case against the Department of Child Services. And
I mean,
also
I did all the lawyers work for them. I have all the documents written. I have proof. I have exhibits. I have everything labeled, everything ready to go. I just I need someone to present it for me because first of all, I'm afraid I'm going to get thrown in jail and attempt made on my life again. And number two, I'm just afraid that the judge, like they have already 3-4 times, just not taking me seriously and say, oh, you're pro se, you need an attorney, like you can't defend yourself in court because you're pro se.
That's true though. But if you really think about it, right? You're not a CPS attorney. Even family law attorneys are stupid in CPS courts. They don't know what to do, right? So how are you gonna? The judge is right. I don't agree with judges. Don't get me wrong. Okay, I don't like them. However, that CPS judge is right because you don't know what you're talking about. People want to go to court to gain justice. I'm right. I want to be proven right. You're wrong. You're fucked up. I want that social worker fired. It's not going to happen. Get it in your damn head, everyone. I'm not talking to you, Caesar, alone. Everyone included. It doesn't happen that way. It took Attorney Davis 5 years to put in my head that you don't go to court for justice. It's either win. Don't give me that surprise look, Vincent. You either win, you get your child back, or you don't want to get your child back. You
No,
want
justice.
justice.
The surprise look was that I was kind of shocked that you actually listened to something I said. I'm just kidding.
I
Listen,
knew you were going to say something, but it's true though.
Caesar, look, I'm going to
It's
tell
true.
you, and I'm going to tell everyone out there. I've been doing this almost 36 years in
Mhm.
December. Okay. One of the things this is just my opinion. All right. But one of the things that I tell people all the time, and they look at me like I'm crazy, is if you're looking for justice,
Mhm.
the courtroom is probably not the place to look.
Mhm.
When you go to court, you're trying to win. You're trying to beat CPS.
Mhm.
And justice to most people means to prove that they're right and that CPS is wrong.
Mhm.
In my opinion, that's a surefire way to lose a case.
Mhm.
Now, I can't mention any names, but I'm going to tell you something. Georgette knows this right now.
I was going to mention that too. The one that hired us 3 times and fired us 3 times.
Caesar, there's a guy who hired
Oh
me
my God.
and fired me 3 times.
3 times.
Now, I asked him the first time, I said, did you hire me because you thought I was an expert? Yes, I did.
Mhm.
And you're firing me now? Yes, I am. Why
Mhm.
are you firing me?
Mhm.
Because I don't agree with your strategy.
Mm.
Okay. All right. Good luck.
But
And
he
then
called today though.
he calls me back.
Mhm.
He hires me back.
Mhm. And then he
Then
promises me he's not going to change his mind.
then he fires me again.
Mhm.
Then he hires me back.
Mhm. In one day today.
Then as he fires me again,
Mhm.
what I don't think Georgette knows this, but today he called Georgette back. I guess he didn't want to talk to me anymore and said, I want to hire him back.
And he was afraid to talk to Davis. He wanted me to convince him.
Oh, okay. But, I told Georgette, I said, look, him hiring me and firing me there's not going to be do any good unless he listens to my advice.
Mhm.
I get people all the time that get pissed off or upset and don't hire me
Mhm.
because they don't like what I say. Now, I'm not
True.
telling you or anybody else that you're a bad parent. I would
Mhm.
never do that
Mhm.
because I was a parent.
Mhm.
All right. And I know the challenges of being a parent.
Mhm.
Believe me. I can show you, though, how to win or how to have the best chance at winning and getting your children back. That's what I do. Now, it may not exonerate you in front of the world like you want, but I can help you get your kids back.
I don't care about that. All I care about is my child. I don't care about justice. I just want time with my child. That's it. Fair, equal, I mean, at this point, anything is better than 1 hour every other week, but I
Well,
deserve
here,
more.
you
I
know what?
deserve.
I'm gonna give you some coaching right now because I heard a couple things in your case or in your story that I think I can help, that I think would help. And I have to preface this because I'm not licensed in uh, Texas. Talk about this with an attorney. Doesn't mean you have to, but I got to give you that warning. You know what you're missing in your case? You're missing a top-notch psychological evaluation and a written report.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been doing this a long time, and I can tell. So, in my own opinion, I talk to people all the time, and I'm looking at you thinking, this guy he's not crazy.
Mm-mm.
He's being taken advantage of, probably by the ex, and probably by the new boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And have I seen that before? Yeah, I've seen it before, so I know it's not impossible. But in order to do this, I think you need to get a top-notch psychologist to give you a full battery. In California, they call it a 730 psychological evaluation. To give you that psychological evaluation, to write the report, and come to court and testify. I'm going to tell you a quick story because we've run out of time already. I did a case in Northern California a couple years ago, and one of the claims against CPS was making about not giving him the child back, my client, the father, was that he was crazy. Now, I talked to the guy many times, met with him, broke bread with him. He wasn't crazy. He was upset that they took his kid. He was that, but he wasn't crazy. So I had him go to a well-known psychologist up in Northern California where the case was. He didn't want to do it. I practically had to beg him to do it, which I don't usually do. Usually I say, hey, Caesar, you should do this. And if you say no, okay, we'll move on. But I had to beg him to do it. He did it. All right. And he wrote a report that was glowing about my client. And before he did the evaluation, I said, look, doc, if the guy's crazy, if there's something wrong, I want you to be honest with me and tell me. I want to know. You don't have to make up shit. Just tell me the truth. And he said, Mr. Davis, I wouldn't do that anyway. I'm a professional. I'm going to tell you like it is. Okay. So he does a report, and then they kind of downplay his report because it was fairly accurate and very good, concerning my client. So I had to bring the guy to court. All right. And they were making fun of him and me. He gets on the stand. I go through his qualifications, and they're unbelievable, his qualifications. And we go through the report, and, he's cross-examined, and, he gets off the stand and he leaves. We do closing argument, I think, the next day. And they argue, the minor's attorney and the social worker's attorney argue that obviously this guy is a fraud, a fake, a quack, blah, 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 blah. And the judge who ends up ruling in our favor says, look, this guy is not a quack. He is highly qualified, maybe one of the best qualified psychologists I've seen since I've been sitting as a judge. He's the real thing. And he gave 100% credibility to what the psychologist said. Okay, now how does that apply to you? Well, you get someone that has a good reputation, good background, good licensing, maybe written a couple articles, a couple books, and you get that person, him or her, to evaluate you. All right? Write the report, and if it comes back great, give it to the judge, give it to the social worker. Introduce it in evidence, and you tell him or her, hey, look, you're probably going to write this report. You're probably going to have to come to court and testify because they're not going to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be cross-examined by the other attorneys. You have to be able to write the report and withstand the testimony on the witness stand. That's what you need to do. Now, I don't know how much it's going to cost you, in your area of the country, but in the case that I've telling you about, I can't really remember, but I think he charged like $4,500 to do the examination and do the
Yeah.
report. And then he charged, I think, 25 or 3,500 to come testify. Okay. Now, because now this happened a few years ago, and we're in the middle of a civil rights lawsuit because we ended up suing the county and the social worker. I speak to the guy periodically, usually by text, sometimes by phone. And you know what? The one thing he always tells me, how happy he is to have his child in his custody. And he keeps sending me pictures of this little baby that, is getting older and older. And every once in a while, he says to me, and I don't bring it up, he says to me, I'm really glad that I listened to your advice about getting that psychological evaluation. Because I think, he thinks it really changed the case. And it probably did. See, sometimes you hire a lawyer and you hope the lawyer is going to make the right argument to win the case. That's rarely what happens. What happens is the right lawyer will get you the right kind of evidence or suggest the right type of evidence to win the case. And in this case and in your case, the right type of evidence, in my opinion, and you have to check this with a Texas lawyer because I'm not a Texas lawyer, is you need a psychological evaluation. And you need it to come back, good. So you can throw that in front of the judge, in front of the social workers and say, look, there's nothing wrong with this guy. He's upset. Yeah, he's upset by what he's perceived to have happened to him. And a lot, and some of it sounds a little wacky, too strange for coincidence, but there's nothing wrong with him. He's not a risk or a danger to his child.
But also be careful because oftentimes the children attorney would not want that report submitted into court, especially if it favors you and they're against you.
Oh,
And
I know.
I know, Mr. Davis, you've seen this happen a million times.
Oh, yeah. But,
Then what?
First step is to do the report, get the evaluation, and to confirm that Caesar's not crazy and he's not a danger or a risk to his child.
Well, one of the things that I was trying to do is I did review the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure regarding mental health and examinations. And the motion that was entered wasn't specific enough. It just said, go here. But according to those rules, Rule 204, it should be specific as to the time, the date, who the doctor is. Everything must be in writing, and the scope of what type of examination it is. And also who's going to pay for it, because they're requesting it, not me. So why should I pay for it? I don't have $3,000 or $4,000. So I wrote up a motion to modify explaining that, and I was going to enter it. But that's when I had already entered the motion to reconsider, to disqualify. And then that's when she told me that I was going to be arrested if I tried to enter that. So I held back on that to this court date today to buy myself more time to plan out my strategy, to see if I was going to get a lawyer with that civil rights activist or if I had to do everything myself. So now that's what I'm going to do is I first need to clarify from the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 204, as to the scope, where I'm supposed to take it, what time, what day. Everything has to be specific according to those rules. And none of it was. It just said, go to this place, and that's it. So, I mean, right there, it should be relief of judgment from that type of order because it's not even valid. It's not even written the right way. And also, it was after the discovery period. Those are supposed to be done within 30 days of the discovery period if you're asking for a mental health evaluation. This was done like 90 days after. So it shouldn't even be allowed. It shouldn't even be entered, So that's what I'm trying to do. But they don't take me seriously because I'm not a lawyer.
And I've heard that complaint by many people who try to represent themselves. And probably over the years, I've seen that happen. I have seen that happen. That's one of the reasons why I tell people, hey, trying to represent yourself is a really bad strategy. You want to get in there and prove that you're right and prove justice has not been done, but you're going about it the wrong way. You know why, Caesar? Let me tell you something. You didn't go to law school, right? You don't have experience as a lawyer. You don't have experience in these types of cases. You don't know the rules of evidence. Don't know the rules of civil procedure. If I told you, Caesar, hey man, your doctor said, hey man, you need open heart surgery, you gonna Google that and try to figure it out for yourself?
No,
No, right?
no.
Because
Yeah, let me tell
you'll end up dead. But everybody thinks they can figure out how to be a lawyer.
Mhm.
And
no, I
unfortunately, and I hate to say it, it's not true. When you go in that courtroom and you try to represent yourself, you're trying to do open heart surgery. You need to find a court appointed attorney. I'm sure they do this in Texas because
Mhm.
I think Matthew told me you guys have court appointed attorneys. Get a court appointed attorney and use that person.
Well, that's the funny story that I was going to tell you is that you're right about not having a lawyer. See, they were trying to put me in jail for 9 years. He had drawn up a motion of contempt of court because I was talking about it online because I had posted videos because I was exposing the truth. So I go to court and they appoint me a lawyer. And at first the lawyer's really good, but then I started figuring out that they were working with the opposing counsel because all of a sudden that lawyer stopped communicating. He didn't enter any motions. He didn't do anything. And he said, "Oh, don't worry about everything." I asked him for my stuff back. I didn't want him. I wanted the court to appoint me a different one. He gave me back my flash drive. It was completely erased. He gave me a letter that I had to
Did
sign
you
that
did
said,
you did you have it? Did you have your flash drive backed up?
yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I
perfect.
did.
Okay. Hey,
But
you
the
guys,
thing was,
hold on a second.
after I got
Caesar,
another lawyer, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're like 30 minutes past our ending time, and a call from one of the attorneys I work with just came through, and I told him I'd be free by 8 o'clock.
No worries.
So first of all, I want to tell you I appreciate you being on the show. I think you have a lot to share with people. If you ever want to be a guest again, or even be a co-host of one of our shows on our platform, please let me or Miss G know. I'd really appreciate it, and we'd welcome you with open arms.
That would be
If
great.
you want to help to bring awareness, because CPS hates our shows and everybody else shows that brings awareness to their corruption. But if you want to join the team, I'll be happy to speak with you about it.
I
Right,
would love that.
the other thing I want you to seriously consider is consider writing a book, telling your
Mhm.
story, because there's so much of what you've told us tonight that you didn't get a chance to tell us because it's a limited show, right? And I'll tell you, I've been helping Cassandra with her case, and we met one time, and the things that she told me I never knew,
Mhm.
but we had been working on the show a lot together, but I just never knew.
Oh, if you only knew.
Right, right. But you know how to get that out there? Book. And
Yeah,
nowadays you can self-publish a book through Amazon. You know,
that's a
I
good idea. I'll do
yeah,
that.
I've been writing. I think I might have written 4 or 5 books during this past year, and I every once in a while I send them to the final draft to Miss G, and she's always shocked. Was like, "When did you write this? When do you have
Mhm.
time to write this book?" So think about that, and I'll help you. I'll help you write the book. I'll help you self-publish it, because your story has to be told. Has to be told. And I know we lost Cassandra there. She probably had to go because we're way over time. But if you're listening, Cassandra, please think about that. I want you to write a book as well, because
She's thinking about it. She's thinking about it.
you have a very unique story.
Mhm.
Very unique story.
And guys, when Mr. Davis, real quick, when Mr. Davis tells you to contact him and he doesn't call you back, please understand Attorney Davis is in court. So don't call me yelling at me because Mr. Davis has cases. You have to be patient and wait for his call back. Okay? That's all I had to say.
All right. Thank you, Miss G, for being a co-host tonight. And again, Caesar, thank you. Our show tomorrow starts at 7 p.m. We're back on our regular live schedule. So 7 p.m. tomorrow and 7 p.m. for the rest of this week. And on Saturday and Sunday, it will be at 9 a.m. Okay?
Great.
You
Thank
kind
you.
of,
Thank you.
thank you.
Pleasure.
Miss G, you kind of dropped your head there. Was that some body language or something?
Yeah, I'll make it verbal after the show.
All
I'll be
righty.
happy to verbalize it for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And see you guys tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time.